Welcome back to Believe in Badgers on the Believe Network, presented by Oak Bridge Wealth Management and FanDuel. Once again, I'm Matt Perkins, joined as always by Badger legend, the Hebrew Hammer himself, Matt Bernstein. Bernie, how are we doing today?
Dude, Matt Perkins, I woke up a winner, so I'm happy about it. Every day's a holiday when we got a slash in the win column. We're going to talk to one of my good friends. This dude was a killer out there, but he's a defensive guy. So it'll be a real fun to have this conversation about watching a boring game and enjoying a boring game.
That's correct. We have the one, the only three-sack Jack Cichy on with us today. It is... I've been looking forward to this one for a long time, Bernie. One of the most electric players of the past couple decades, absolutely. And that's saying something at the linebacker spot for Wisconsin, because there have been a lot of dudes, but few who brought the energy of you, Jack. So thank you so much for hopping on with us and sharing some of that energy with us.
Thank you, guys. I'm excited to be here. First time guest, but no, I'm juiced. Anytime I can talk ball, talk Badgers, I'm all about it.
Wait, is three-sack Jack a real thing? Because I love it.
It's since we're almost a decade out. It's we're about 9 years, 9 months. So it's almost decade in the making. But yeah, that caught on like wildfire. Wow,
dude, I'm 2 decades in the making, so I feel that. Welcome to the alumni. By the way, that was one of the coolest things I've seen. I don't think there was a Badger sitting at their house or in a bar across the entire world who wasn't jumping up and down during that time. I know we'll get to that, but dude. And you sat the first half, right?
Oh yeah, I was in the locker room just chomping at the bit, just raring to go. So I had fresh legs, which is nice. Yeah, and like it's so funny how things work out, because obviously, there are times where would you go back and not get that targeting penalty against Minnesota? I'm like, I don't know. Things worked out pretty well.
That targeting penalty was hogwash in my.
Yeah, you know me. I don't agree with it, but I guess it's a new day.
It's a new day, and I think, dude. I love protecting the players. Like, I'm all for that. But some of these calls are like, to me, if it's not malicious, then it shouldn't be a targeting. If someone's going up to hurt somebody, you can see that. Jack, you've seen a lot of ball. There's no way you can tell the difference.
No doubt. And that's one thing, when I was with the Bucks, and it was the first year with Tom, he said he had like a press conference where we got to a point, and things ebb and flow, but you got to a point where you kind of are penalizing the defense for offensive miscues or offensive, just because the guy's he's got a window right in the middle of the field. If the quarterback sees that safety, and there's a lot that goes on that's like it's a bang football play, but there's enough blame to go around. It's not always on the defensive guy.
I totally agree. I actually hate the call. I mean, it should just be a personal foul to kick somebody out of a game and to make them miss when you only get so little games to play. I mean, look, Billy Edwards right now is going to miss a couple games as a senior. Like, that's killer. Is he a junior?
No, and that's,
senior.
Football games just mean so much more because you're so limited. You don't have a 60-game season. You're not, you're limited with your reps. So I agree. I could be convinced that 10, 15 yards is worth it, but to just out the game, that doesn't sit right. That never will with me.
Listen, I completely agree, because I got hurt my senior year and that was it. Like, your window is short and you want to play every single snap you can play, and to get these ridiculous calls that are not malicious. We could talk about that, the rules to football.
Yeah, we can talk to a days on that one.
But let's go back to young Jack, Mr. Energy. I have to believe that you were a wild human being as a little kid.
Yeah, I mean, so my parents still live in the same house. Grew up about 20 minutes from where I'm at now, just 20 minutes north in Somerset from where I'm at in Hudson. But I had the 2 older sisters, so they kind of whipped me into shape. They would bully me until they got into their teens. But yeah, I had 3 dogs, and we lived in the woods, and I would literally just run around the woods, hang out with the dogs, like, go bike over to a buddy's house every once in a while. But yeah, I like nature. I've always been able to kind of just kick it, whether there's people there or not. Yeah, I guess I've always been higher on the energy side.
Well, wait, I get the feeling you were someone who climbed a lot of trees. I don't know why. I just feel like you were a tree climber.
Oh yeah, dude. I'll send you guys a photo after this of my backyard here in my house. Like my birthday present to myself this year, I got myself like a chainsaw. I'm all about like just hawking them down, arranging them, cutting firewood. As nerdy and niche as that is, that's me.
I'll tell you, one of the coolest things about coming from New York and not having any of these experiences is chopping wood.
Yes.
I absolutely you could get lost in it.
Dude, you do. And they've come out with studies lately that it's because of the, it's pretty much hardwired in us as humans from however long ago, but it just spikes your testosterone because your body doesn't necessarily know what it's doing. It just knows you're swinging something hard and it's coming down and like, boom, boom, boom. So, no, it's a nice little exercise.
Listen, when you look at the news and see somebody from New York getting arrested for chopping trees down in Westchester County, you'll know it's me. And I'll just say, hey, this guy Jack told me to do it.
I'll come bail you out, Bernie. How about that?
Oh, man. So Jack, when does football come in? You're running around, you're climbing trees. When does football, like, has it always been important to your family?
Yeah. So my dad played football in Notre Dame. My grandpa on his side is a Hall of Fame high school coach in North Dakota. They won 16 state championships, I think. So yeah, all my uncles on my dad's side played at North Dakota State. 2 of them All-Americans at North Dakota State. So yeah, I got football in my blood. But honestly, like I was kind of saying, I didn't love sports. I like sports growing up. I like to compete, but I'd much rather just kind of be hanging out, outside with the dogs, playing Legos. And then once I got into probably like 6th grade, middle school, that's when I loved basketball. I loved basketball. Obviously, my sister Tessa played at Wisconsin, so that's a little bit in the family too. But then we started padded football in Somerset, just like Saturday mornings, and I loved it. Putting the helmet on, like hindsight, we're a bunch of 4th, 5th grade kids in shoulder pads and helmets that are probably way too big for us. But you're like 9-yard drill, and just get in there and just bang bodies. And it's as a football player, it's hard to explain just because the contact is something you come to crave. You learn to love it and you learn to thrive on it. And that's probably one of the wilder things stopping playing is trying to find an outlet for that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But yeah, I guess probably like 5th, 6th grade is when I really started liking it. And then freshman year of high school, once our freshman season was done, I got asked just to suit up with varsity for the playoffs. And then from there, ended up starting sophomore year, junior, senior, and then obviously walked on at UW.
When do you start to realize that you could play at the next level? Obviously, you have this huge family tradition and lineage of playing collegiate football. When did you start to realize, hey, like I could do this too?
Honestly, I think that sophomore year when I first started on varsity, my problem was I was always just so undersized, and that's part of the reason I walked on. But I mean, I had 2 all-conference seasons. I always led the team in tackles, but I was 6'1", 6'2", 180 pounds my senior year, and I was productive, but that's not the most enticing recruit for college coaches at linebacker, especially in the Big Ten. They're like, okay. And it's actually wild how things work, because that's when I really knew I could play at the next level and I wanted to. and then that's when you're not really getting much interest. There were, University of St. Thomas here. Actually took a visit to North Dakota State, took a visit out to Holy Cross in Worcester. And I was actually committed to Holy Cross in Worcester. And then that was senior year, got back that Monday, and the Anderson era was starting. And Coach Bush, Bill Bush, had coached with my high school coach at New Mexico. And my high school coach put in a call to Bill. And next weekend I was there for walk-on weekend. And I remember that Sunday morning at the recruit breakfast, I might've been hungover. I don't remember. But I told Aranda and Bill that I'm all in. Like, if you guys want me to walk on, I'm here. So it was great. Things always work out in a funny way, but I knew I wanted to play at the highest level possible just because I wanted to be the best I could. And that was whether or not I played or not. If I was a walk-on, I felt like I could make anything work there.
I mean, so you were pretty familiar with the Wisconsin walk-on tradition, obviously growing up, in and around the state, and just, having seen so many guys make it from that walk-on program to being, contributors, to being starters, to being NFL players, and, even more than that. Was there, you always said you were committed to Holy Cross, but was there ever sort of any point, especially after you got to campus, second guessing, maybe I should have taken that ride to be able to get on the field earlier, et cetera?
No, not really. If there might have been so I obviously came in, and I didn't hit 220 until my second summer in Madison. So I get there, first summer, I'm just I just got to put weight on. I gotta put weight on, get in the weight room. And I ended up actually traveling and playing on special teams my true freshman year. Still very undersized, but you can make that work on special teams. So not redshirting right away. I was, there weren't really any doubts. I guess the only doubts came in is when TJ Watt and Leon were my roommates freshman summer, and shaking both their hands, I'm like, what is going on? Leon looks probably the same as he did senior year at senior day, and TJ's got these big meat hooks. I'm like, I never didn't have confidence, but those are the type of things where okay, I'm not I'm not the top dog anymore. I'm not walking through halls looking down on anyone. So that was more just a pinch yourself and be all right. Mm-hmm.
I've stood next to Leon. He's not the guy you want to stand next to for a number of reasons. One, he's a great looking dude who's jacked out. I've never seen a more bigger cut human being that's not a bodybuilder.
Yeah.
It's insane. Oh man, I don't even want to think about hitting him either.
Yeah.
Oh God. All right. So wait, I got to ask, because Dave Aranda was one of the best coaches, probably defensive coaches Wisconsin's had in its entire history. What's that first meeting like?
I mean, he's such a unique guy, and he's always got these funny viral clips now that he's at Baylor, but he's not that. He's intense, but a smoldering intense, not a yell intense. He's just he's always even keel. If he ever yelled, it'd be from the sideline trying to get you to adjust something on the field. He wasn't yelling at you in meetings. He wasn't yelling at you on the sideline. He was always just even keel, and then just methodical and thought out. And I learned so much football from him. I think he probably increased my football IQ by 30 points just because of how he broke things down and how he was able to communicate. Obviously, I was spoiled because he was our DC, but he was my linebacker coach too. So you get to learn a lot from that. But yeah, man, he was something else, just in the fact that I feel like, one, I was privileged because I came from a 3-4. So then I got to go into his system where I was like, oh yeah, I'm comfortable. I was playing outside and inside, which both worked well. But in my opinion, and this is just high school Jack looking at UW, it was always the 4 down front. It was always, big durable guys on that front, and then kind of like plug and play behind, depending on whether you want the linebackers or the secondary. But I think it was cool to be a part of that change to, like anything, I like the 3-4 better. I like pro style offenses better, but there's pros and cons to both. I just think that being able to be there at like the turning of the guard when we were able to kind of turn that defense into something a little more dynamic. Not that like the Mike Taylors and Borland, they obviously had great stout defenses, Pat Buttram, Lewis, like they were studs, but it was cool to be at that like turning point where you're like, okay, now we can do more. And you see what that structure was able to yield with Shobes, Beagle, TJ, Conley, Chris, Van Ginkel. Obviously, Gink was a Leonard guy, but that the framework, still holds.
Well, one of the guys who was in that room when you walked in was Chris Borland. We've had Chris on the podcast. We love Chris. Yeah. He's, one of the smartest players, obviously, to ever play at UW, and someone who was as productive as anyone. What was it like to step into a room where he was the obvious leader in there, and sort of what was his leadership style like, and what was your relationship with Chris as a freshman?
It was, he's a vocal guy, but he's also a guy that's really easy to lead by, like to follow his example because it's there every day. I saw him in 3 Rose Bowls leading up to when I first stepped foot on campus. And me and Leon were the only freshmen, I think, in that room that year. So between him and Ethan Armstrong, just really cool to one, you're seeing them in a bit of an uncomfortable environment as far as that's their first year with Aranda too. They're moving into a new scheme, but the way he was able to adjust and he always knew his job, and then from there knew what everyone else was doing. And I think that's something I took with me throughout my football career is as a linebacker, obviously you need to know your job, but once you know that in and out, then knowing everyone else's or how everything ties together makes your life easier. You're able to play faster. You're able to expect more, anticipate more. And I think that, you can't point to one thing that he showed us just because it's innumerable.
All right. So you show up, you're undersized, you're energetic. You're going in, what's football camp like for you? And what's it? When I don't remember the special teams coach, so apologies there, but when they're like, dude, you're going to travel, that must have meant the world to you.
Yeah, it was crazy. At that point it was Bush, but it was like Bush and Jenick. Jenick had the punt return and kick return, and then Bush had the kickoff and punt. It was amazing and exciting at the same time, kind of terrifying, just because until you step on the field, and how it is. Once you step on a field in a stadium full of 60 to 80,000, and then everything you embrace it, and then it just kind of goes like tunnel vision, and you're like, all right, now it's just background noise. So it was extremely exciting, but at the same time, as far as learning the whole of football, like if they would have been like, you have to go in on defense, I know how to play defense like anyone else, but the hardest part was the terms. You're learning all these different, same as, but this is slightly different. You're learning this is this drop, and this drop is one, like we'd have a skiff or we'd have a hook, and it's like, what's the difference? How do I know why I'm taking 3 to the flat here? And there's just so much going on besides you're dropping to the hash. You need to know how things mesh. And that was probably the biggest, besides the physical aspect, that's football. You gotta get on a level playing field. Besides the physical aspect, that was probably the tough part, was just, settling down, trying to absorb it all and not get overwhelmed.
So game 1 was Thursday, last night. A lot of dudes played Wisconsin football for the first time.
Yeah.
Do you remember running into Camp Randall day one for that game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sunny, 11 a.m. We played UMass first game, but I don't think I played till next week against Tennessee Tech because I didn't know I'd be traveling till then. But just wild. It's almost it's information overload, but it's one of the coolest things ever. Just because you're able to see the jump around from the first time on the field, and you're able to just. It helps when you're playing a quote unquote cupcake, and you can see James White and Melvin running the ball down their throat. You mean we had a monstrous O-line, so you're like, okay, this is great. You're on a great team, and that makes everything that much more enjoyable, more fun. Like if we were getting our teeth kicked in that first game, that's like, okay, but that wasn't the case.
Yeah, see, Matt Perkins, I was lucky. I redshirted. So the first 10 times I ran in the stadium, I just knew I was going to stand on the sideline, wave that towel. So there is no pressure, but it's still so freaking cool, man, to run on that field. But I could never imagine, dude, I sucked when I showed up. So I could never imagine running on the field and being like, I might actually get in today.
Yeah.
So it's bananas. But so cool. All right. So you're playing, you're on special teams.
Are you still running? My question is: are you still running scout team defense when you were a freshman, even though you're playing special teams?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I think some of the best stories we get come out of scout team. So what are some of your favorite or at least most memorable scout team incidences? Shall we say?
Well, I think. Well, I got a lot of scout team stuff because I redshirted my sophomore year, so that's when I was full-time scout team. But and this is something my dad told me is. You got to use scout team as your reps. You work on your technique, you work on alignments, whatever. But you're not just like a card reader and throwing them away. So I think actually in the late part of camp, my scout team play is what got me on the special teams. Two things. The moment where I was like, oh my God, what the hell did I get into is it was towards the end of camp. I was probably that UMass week. And so early in scout team, and I get a pick and I'm trying to return it. I'm bobbing and weaving. Then out of nowhere, Kyle Costigan just comes and cleans my clock. My feet probably both left the ground, laying. You're like, oh my God. But luckily I just popped up and threw the ball back and ran back. But that was the one where I got, blindsided trying to, oh, this is sweet. This is sweet. And then, that was great. And then, like I said, sophomore year, I redshirted. So I was full-time scout team. And I like to give, that was TJ Edwards' freshman year. And I didn't come to scout team till about week 4, but I still got scout team player of the year, and he's still salty about that one that I got that over him. So I'll always keep that hanging over him.
Oh man, I remember when a scout D was when we threw a pick, I wouldn't even chase him. Yeah. Just go run back to the huddle because in the game you would chase him, but that was the best time for the defense to try to crush you. Because you are not a defensive guy. You look like a chicken with your head cut off when you're on offense. You're like, where's the guy? If you hit a linebacker hard
and everything, you haven't worked.
You talked a little smack. That dude was looking for you. He didn't care where the ball was going. Wait, so tell us more about Aranda. Then you start becoming more successful. You start seeing the field more junior, senior year. What's all that like? How do you get from there to running in and having 3 sacks back to back to back?
It's a lot of hopping around, but it's a lot of coaches had faith in me, which is great. So I came as an outside linebacker, came on campus as an outside linebacker, spent that whole first summer with the outside backers. I didn't get invited to camp right away that freshman year. So I'm back home waiting for a call. I think probably maybe 10 days into camp, Coach Strickland calls me. He's like, hey, we've had some injuries. Can you make it? I'm like, yeah, of course. And I came in then as an inside linebacker. That's where they needed me. So I spent that whole freshman year as an inside backer with the inside backer. So I get to learn from Chris. I get to be in Aranda's meetings. And then come the next year, sophomore year, I'm outside backer, back to outside backer, backing up Schobert. And that's the year we play LSU in Houston that first year, that first game. So, and Schob's a baller. Me and him and most linebackers are the same, where we don't want to come out of the game. We want to play every play. We don't need a sub. And that's how it was that first game. And I remember there was something that probably happened like third quarter, and Coach Bush called me on he was in the booth. He called me on like the sideline phone and was like, "Hey, unless Schob's literally cannot go, we're going to hold you out because we think we want to redshirt you." And I'm like, okay, you've got mixed emotions, but for me, that was great because I'm starting this year at probably like 215. So I put some weight on. I feel confident, but I know I was playing the long game. I wasn't like, I'm coming in, I'm 3 years, I'm going to league. I'm like, I want to be a great college football player. And if the coach is telling me they want to redshirt me, to me, that just reinforces that they have faith in me and they want to help me develop. So that's great. I'm all in that. And then we got, I think, 2 more games after that LSU game where it's kind of the same program. Like, unless Schobes cannot go, we're holding you out. And so then once we got to the 4th game of the year, then I'm showing up on Saturday knowing I'm not going to the game. Like, I was like, all right, I'm hanging out, which is cool. Then you get to work out more. You get to do all the scout team stuff. And yeah, just hone your craft. And again, still learning from Aranda, still be able to, at this point, freshman year, it's like you're drinking from a fire hose. At this point, I already know the defense. I'm confident in like what my responsibilities are. So then you can start kind of just stacking on top of that. So let's see. Obviously, at the end of that year, we had a relatively close Big Ten championship game, and then went to that was a joke. Then Outback Bowl where Barry's coaching, and Anderson had left, and so Paul comes in, and we're blindsided by the news, but we're excited for Paul. But at the same time, we're like, well, we want Aranda to stay. Like, we've this is our 2nd year. We've built some good stuff, and luckily, I don't really think that was ever a question for Paul. I think he was, and Paul's about as an offensive mind as they come. He's perfectly fine not having a stake in the defense, as far as like, he's not going to be looking over the DC's shoulder. He's not going to be like, he's completely autonomous, which worked great. And I'm back to outside now. So starting my redshirt sophomore year, I'm at outside. Still, let's see. Yeah, Schobes had one. So I'm still backing up Schobes. And then Vince and TJ are on the other side. So me and Joe were the field guys. Vince and TJ Watt were the boundary guys.
What a group.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wait, go back for a second.
Leon was in that room, but that I can't remember if that was when Leon had like a broken foot or what.
Did they move Leon to fullback one year too?
He did go to fullback. Leon went to fullback for a little bit.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Leon's a spark plug. Just intimidation factor alone. You can put him wherever.
She should have been a captain every single year just to walk out there.
Hey folks, before we continue, I want to remind everyone tuning in that we continue to be proudly presented by Chris Anicetti and his entire team over at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. If you're a collegiate athlete or parent of a collegiate athlete navigating NIL opportunities, Chris and his team are here to help maximize your earnings and protect your future. We all know that athletes train hard to be the best on the field, but who's making sure they're winning off the field? Chris Anicetti and his entire team at Oak Bridge Wealth Management. That's who. They don't just manage your money. They handle your entire financial world. From building a rock-solid financial plan tailored for athletes to paying bills, budgeting, setting up LLCs, and securing financing for cars, equipment, and whatever else you need so that you can focus on your game. Your career is short. Make every dollar count. Oak Bridge Wealth Management, where athletes build lasting wealth. Get in touch with Chris on Instagram at oakbridgewm_Anicete. That's oakbridgewm_ANICETE, or head on over to their website at oakbridgewealthmgmt.com. Chris Anicete, Oak Bridge Wealth Management, they've been helping a lot of NCAA athletes and professional athletes get their money right. There's no one else better for this around that you are going to find. So make sure to get in touch with Chris and support the people who support us. All right, we're going to hop back into the show.
Wait, Jack, go back for a second because you just glazed over my coach. What you had Barry Alvarez for a game?
Oh yeah.
How cool! Like I find that to be so unique because he retired for 10 years by this point, 5, 6, 7, 8. What's it like? Like he's at practice, he's talking to you guys after you guys won. I mean, like how amazing is it to have coach you guys?
Well, obviously it was amazing, but it's so cool because when he was coaching, I'm young enough to remember watching the TV, but not really old enough to fully remember what's going on. But being able to sit in the locker room or sit in the media room and he's talking to us, he's got such a unique cadence. He's just he speaks on schedule. He's extremely knowledgeable and so many things. So it was kind of like such a unique experience for pretty much that month of December. We had him as a coach, and he's breaking us down. He's giving us little tidbits, some unique motivation. And it's like, all right, he obviously still cares and he's the AD, but now you get to see him do this above and beyond with the football team, which he obviously holds near and dear to his heart. So yeah, I mean, it's inexplicable how cool it was. Yeah. And I probably didn't even realize it at the time, you're just kind of like in it. But hindsight, man, it was sweet.
All right, so talk to us more. So then you have the switch. Aranda's out. Coach Chris comes in, and not Aranda. I said Aranda's out.
Anderson's out. I know what you're saying.
Aranda's in. You still got him. I mean, that must be. It's like you didn't skip a beat.
Yeah. No. I mean, we sorry, there's a bug. We came out swinging. We opened up with Alabama that year. And then this is kind of when we're getting into more like we had Bush was the outside linebacker coach and they didn't retain Bush. So Coach Tim Tibasar came in. He was our outside backer coach. Mm-hmm. And he was much more into, all right, Joe and Vince, you guys get 2 series, and then I'm gonna spell you a little bit. So I was starting to get 3 to 10 snaps a game probably at outside that early part of that season, which was, I mean, it was awesome. I loved it. And, it's enough because I'm a core teamer, so I'm at every special team, but then I'm wetting my whistle with a little bit of defense too. So you're able to stay warm. You feel a little more involved, which was great. And I was able to make some plays and more or less do my job well enough. So after Illinois that year, which was probably game 6, Chris Orr, that's how it started. Leon and TJ started that year at inside backer. Leon, it might have been his foot, it might have been something else, but he was out by the second game, like out for the year, I'm pretty sure. And so was TJ and Chris Orr. And then after that Illinois game, Chris Orr has like a freak infection in his leg where he has to, on Monday, they have to do something where they have to like remove it. And he's out for 4 weeks then. And Aranda calls me up to his office that Monday and is like, hey, we're going to move you like back inside and you're going to start for us. Which was awesome. Anytime a coach is communicating with you is a good thing because it shows they care. But when they're able to tell you that and relay that they have faith in you, that's huge. So I'm back to inside, and that's probably always been my natural position, just because, you know, you feel like you can play the entire field and you're quarterback in it more or less. And so I get to be vocal. I get to, you know, run my mouth like a jag off. And it was, that's probably the most nervous I've ever been, was probably before my first start against Rutgers. It was a home Halloween game. It was like a rainy game, and Rutgers pretty much stayed in 21, 22, or 23 personnel the whole time. I think I had 10 tackles, you know, and it was pretty much just inside run. So I'm fitting power, I'm spilling ISO. It was great. And it was so fun. That first experience was so fun that it was like, wow, I'm just flying high. And then that was Rutgers. Next game against Maryland, I think I had 2 sacks, another double-digit tackle game. And then let's see, then we had Northwestern, lost to them at home. You know, that weird game where they called Erickson's punt back. But again, like I think I remember after that, because it was senior day, but between TJ Edwards, myself, Vince, and Joe, I think we had like 50 combined tackles or something like that. That might be a little high, but I'm pretty sure we were all in double digits. So it was, you know, that's a loss. So you don't really care about the stats at that point. But we were playing good defense. I mean, that was a 13-6 game, and I think our offense turned it over 4 or 5 times. So, you know, we had a lot of sudden change, a lot of backup against the wall, but those are the fun games. Like you're with your guys. Those are when like the bonding experiences happen. And then to finish out the year, we got Minnesota, and obviously I grew up right on Wisconsin side of the border. I've always hated Minnesota. It's an ugly colors, ugly university. Among other things, but I won't I'll get off that soapbox for now. But so, and it's at U of M campus. So I have a lot of family at the game. I'm juiced up. Like, I love rivalries. Rivalries are like why we play the sport. So I hope they're saying the same thing about us. You know, rivalries are good. They're very beneficial for so many reasons. You don't need to be buddy. It's just one of the things where you're not. And that's where I think the Iowa rivalry is a lot more respect, and the Minnesota rivalry is a lot more hate. Now that might be because I grew up here, but that's kind of like how I viewed when I grew up. As a Packer fan, I never thought about the Bears because they were so far away. I thought about the Vikings, and that might be similar. But anyways, off that tangent. So we had a pretty good first half of that game, and then I get kicked out of the game in with 2 minutes off the clock in the third. So I spend pretty much the entire second half in the locker room, just going crazy. Luckily, I mean, it wasn't that close of a game. Boys pulled it out. And then on the way home from that game, it hits me. I'm like, oh, wait, I got to sit out the first half of the bowl game. And I'm like, damn. But, I mean, there are worse things. You know, it was not – Aranda handled it well in bowl prep because Chris was back healthy at that point. And he literally told us, he's like, Chris, you get the first half. Every play, Jack, you get the second half every play. And we're both like, you can't ask for much more than that. He communicated, he told us what we got, and that's your opportunity. Let's do something with it. So yeah, then I'm in the locker room the first half of that game, just restless, had fresh legs coming in, and that was cool. You know, obviously my dad had at Notre Dame, I don't think he had ever beat USC. So to be able to do that was cool. But like anything, that game was just wild. Aranda blitzed me a lot, so I got to just get after it, pin my ears back.
Jack, you only played one half and led the team in tackles.
Yeah. That's inside linebacker. You can like it. That's what one of the best parts about the position is. You literally you can make a play on any play, whether it's a pass, whether it's a run. They run to the right, get on your horse. Go. Like versus outside backer, there are times where I'm sure Schobert or TJ were very pissed because they're running away from you. You can't really chase down everything because you have to be disciplined for the backside. And even if you do chase, like are able to chase, they're running away from you. So sooner or later, they're going to get hit or run in the sideline. But yeah, man. So that's.
Well, Jack, go back for a second because I feel like this would be mentally so hard for a young person to, in the last game in the second half, to get ejected for targeting, to know now you have to wait a month to play in a bowl game that you can only play the second half. How do you deal with that? Like I feel like I would have a mental breakdown. How do you deal with that knowledge? Like who's talking you off the ledge? Like, how do you deal with that?
I don't even like, I know I was feeling what you're saying, but it's kind of one of those where I'm sure I just kind of compartmentalized, was like, well, I mean, at that point we weren't going to the Big Ten championship. So we had probably a week off at least before bowl prep. So, you can, there's enough to do in Madison where you can take your mind off it, but it's just one of those where you just like, it's what got me to that point is just like, you just got to stay the course, man. Like you can't, if I'll be honest, I might've got the better end of the deal between me and Chris, because if you were going to be like, would you rather play the first or second half of a close bowl game, which would you rather,
Sure.
So, you can find silver linings and stuff, but, it sucked. I'll be honest. I was between being pissed that I missed half the Minnesota game for just what was a great peel back block or being like, damn, I just gotta know I gotta go through all bowl prep knowing I'm not in the first half. But I think after probably the first couple bowl prep practices, I was like, whatever. We're here. Got to deal with it.
Well, I mean, still, that's your redshirt sophomore season. You still got 2 years on campus after that. With Coach Chris, you guys are still ended up going to some really big bowl games. You're on that 13-1 team that won the Orange Bowl. How did you grow in those last 2 years from being a contributor to being a starter and a leader?
So obviously, like getting to that point, I got to thank Aranda, I got to thank Bush, and I got to thank Tibbs. All coached me, all was able to learn a lot from from Paul. Like Paul, when he came in, a lot of coaches want their guys, or for right or wrong. I understand why. There were a couple practices that first spring ball with Paul where there were 3+ hours, mainly because he's trying to he's like, I want to know who wants to play football. And luckily, pretty much my entire class, we all loved like that. Those are guys that you're going to do a 3-hour practice, let's do a 4-hour practice. Like, we don't care. So that was great. And then after, Aranda leaves, I remember I got out of like a movie and it was like just after New Year, and I had a voicemail from him. I'm like, all right. So he took the LSU job, and we get Justin Wilcox in. Came from USC actually, but what was great with J-Dub is Aranda helped me grow my football IQ, but like Wilcox got me to be so comfortable in my position and in that play, in that signal caller, in that like leader position, that it was awesome. He kept the same defense. Obviously, with each coordinator and play caller, you have their own little idiosyncrasies. They have their own like kind of style to do stuff, but Wilcox took Aranda's defense and simplified like the naming aspect. So we turned all of our old calls into orange. Like We had it was just everything was condensed. Everything was made a little simpler because we already all had like the knowledge of what these plays were. So it's like we're just gonna sharpen it. We're gonna clean it up, make it a little more efficient, which is what worked well for us. So being that with Wilcox paired with just another year of experience, another just a little more time under my belt, just the confidence was able to just stack from there. And obviously we opened up. That was another year where we had one of the probably tougher schedules we've had in the past couple decades. Open up against LSU at Lambeau, which
epic game.
I mean,
epic game.
Between in warmups, one, we had a lot of Baton Rouge people in our hotel in Green Bay, which I as a defender, I love hostile environments, and Lambeau is obviously a very home environment, but like it's one of those where it was probably 60-40, maybe 70-30, but there was a lot of purple there. And it's cool when you're in warm-ups and they're all singing, like calling Baton Rouge. And I remember like we're looking at each other and it's me, it's TJ, it's Foom. And we'd all had roles till then, but now this is kind of like we're realizing like, all right, this is our team now. Like this is our shtick. So win a great game against LSU. Then we, couple grinder games. I think it was Georgia State. Not Georgia State. No, it might have been Georgia State.
It was Georgia
either
State.
Way.
Yeah, no, it was. You guys had Akron and Georgia State following LSU.
So those were more like coming off a big win. Those were kind of grinds, but got the wins. Then we go at Michigan State, win. At Michigan was grinder loss, but that was like just the biggest slugfest ever.
That was Hornibrook's for a start too, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah, because I don't know if something
he came in for an injured Bart Houston in the Michigan State game the week before.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But we lose a tough one to Michigan, and I remember that was one where I think as inside back, the first 3 games or the first 2 games after LSU, Wilcox was like, all right, I'm gonna like sub in Leon and Conley for TJ and me, and we're both like, okay, we get it. And then he did that Michigan State too, and then that Michigan game, he tells us, he's like, you're not coming out unless you need to. And I think we both played like 95 plays that game. Obviously tough loss. And then very next week we have Ohio State at home, night game, lost in overtime. But just like those were the games where like they were one score, very close games, and losing them did not deter us at all. One, because we're in the East and West at that point, but also just because like, there's no telling what's going to happen. And that's something that, it gets lost a little bit nowadays with the transfer portal and certain things, but between injuries and whatever, I think so much is gained from just being like, you know what, we just got to stick it out. We don't know how things are going to shake out. And then obviously that's after Ohio State. Next game's Iowa, where I tear my pec at half. And that was wild. That was like, it felt like I got a shotgun to the chest and I didn't know what like had happened. And I played the entire second half of that game with like the arm hanging on my side. Just literally, I would like just throw like torpedo in at the running back every time I could. And then watching the film, and after I got my MRI, I was like, okay, maybe that wasn't. Maybe I was really hurt. So that sucks. That's my first season ender, but as a team, we not deterred at all. Big Ten championship, lost to Penn State, but then go to the Cotton Bowl, beat undefeated Western Michigan, which. That we finished that year 10-3. Just a huge year for us. We for the strength of schedule and what people said we were going to do, obviously we would love to be 13 or 14 and 0, but 10-3 after that was great.
Well, we got to talk at least quickly about your time in the NFL. When did you even realize that the next level was going to be, an opportunity for you? Like, is this when you're starting to play as a sophomore? Like, when do you realize the NFL is going to be an opportunity for you? And what was it like to hear your name called on draft day?
That was wild. But probably after the Holiday Bowl, the guy who actually ended up being my agent, my dad had known him long before I ever thought I was playing college football, let alone pro football. So that was nice. But he reached out to my dad after that Holiday Bowl and was like, scouts are like serious, because I finished the last 4 or 5 games of that year very strongly, and that's when I guess scouts were I was starting to pique their interest, which was cool. But then again, it's kind of the same as where I was in high school, where I was like, I just want to walk on. And if I was at that point, I was like, I know I can play college football, and then get to fast forward, and I'm like, well, they're telling me that they're interested, and based on what I've been doing, I'm like, I have no doubts that I can play in the pros. But again, it's like one of those where you're like, it's so unknown what the deal even is. But then, yeah, so, go through the and what's wild is I still in disbelief a little bit. I got drafted after not playing senior year because I tore my ACL that August in camp. And that was tough because at that point, I knew I've always been like, I'm not chasing ghosts. If I'm going to get what I get, and I'm not really going to, gripe or worry about, once I got to the NFL, I wasn't going to CFL. Like, it was kind of one of those where it's like, I'm trying to play at the highest level and play the best I can. But yeah, hearing my name on draft day was wild. And it's funny because it was where I least expected it. Granted, at the Combine and at Pro Day, I had meetings and I had a dinner with Tampa Bay. But fast forward to draft day, I hadn't heard from them in a while. It's one of those where you're just like, I'll take anyone. And then I halfway through Saturday, I see the 813 Florida area code calling me, and I'm like, oh, geez, there it is. And it was great, man. I love Tampa for so many reasons. Have some of my best friends from the Bucks, but like my career kind of ended is, I was quote unquote injury prone, whether they were just bad luck or not, that's kind of how the chips fell. But I made each year I made the 53-man roster was coming off a season-ending injury. So that's something I'm really proud of, whether 2 ACLs and 1 like total elbow reconstruction. Each year I made the 53 following it. So that's something I'm proud of. Don't have as much film or plays to talk about in the NFL, but that's I hit the average 3 years,
Well, we got to talk about the game last night as we record here on a Friday, because opener for the Badgers, they win 17-0. And Bernie, like you were saying before, it was an ugly game, at least from the offense. But Jack, you must have enjoyed the defensive performance that you saw.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. And there are some new faces, but there are a lot of guys that have been there and stuck it out. And whether it's Daryl Peterson on the edge, Ben Barton, and not anyone's more important than the others, but Preston Zachman, he's one of the kids where, like I was talking just briefly before about, he saw it through, man. When I was done with the league and when I was a free agent, still doing tryouts, I was working out at UW. And he was going through the injury bug, man. I think he had 2 or 3 surgeries where he was not anywhere near the field. And a lot of guys could, that that breaks a lot of guys at any university, at any institution. That's not easy. And he's someone who's stuck it through and was like, didn't shy away from the adversity, didn't shy away from the hard work, wasn't like, no. He was behind Wooler and Torch, and he's like, I wasn't going to transfer. That's an easy get out for a lot of people. But Preston stuck it out, and 2 picks in crucial moments yesterday to start off his senior year. I mean, I think he's probably been there a little longer, but you guys know as well as I do.
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know.
his 6th year, but I think he had.
I don't know how the eligibility goes now, but no, that like among other guys, I still have a lot of crossover with some of the guys on the team now, and he's just one of many that you're proud of, and you're impressed with perseverance, the hard work, and seeing it pay off.
He almost had a touchdown. In like a very crucial quarter.
He's probably kicking himself over stepping out, but no, so like I said, we talked earlier, never going to be mad at a shutout, because they were in field goal range a lot, and especially with a quarterback that dynamic, that much of an athlete, holding anyone to 0 points is something else. And so defensively, I was pleased. And then offensively, it sucks with the Q going down, but I saw a lot of good from the new OC. I like the stable of running backs we got. We have a lot of variety in that backfield, it looks like, which is great. Jackson, great fullback. I got to coach him a little bit. Just freak athlete. He doesn't shy away from contact, which you love to see. But yeah, with the OC, even when the backup Q came in, he made a lot of good throws, had a lot of good concepts, and it all kind of started at the line of scrimmage with the linemen, just trying to impose your will. And like Bernie, it's so for me. I'm an old soul in a lot of ways, but as far as the game of football, I like to boil it down to trying to impose your will on the other person. And when you're in the spread, you can do that. And when you're in a bit of a more college standard offense where things are spread out, you're using your athletes, that's good for big plays. And a lot of people have success with that. But personally, I love where, even if you go 3 or 4 and out your first drive, if you're playing so that you're winning in the fourth quarter too. Like you're wearing people down, Okay, they fit up the run a couple times, but as Wisconsin, you got to have the wherewithal to be like, well, they might be fitting it in the first quarter, but by the time we've had 3 quarters on them and we're continuing to do what we do, they're not going to be able to. And I think that's going to be something cool to see this unit grow with, is how they develop their identity more. But I already saw a bit of an identity last night. I feel like, the guys were into it defensively. They were ball hawks. They were gang tackling, and offensively, you saw in the second, third, and fourth quarters, those runs were getting 6 yards a pop. And, everyone loves a Jonathan Taylor 80-yard to the house, but 6-yard runs, you take them every day, because 6 yards is demoralizing for a defense, because you're not even 4 yards, if you're getting it consistently defensively, you're like, God, we just need it puts everyone in a better position on your team when you're able to have the versatility, but also you got to play the mental game. And like I said, if you're getting those chunk runs of 4 to 6 to 8 yards, the opposing defense is getting so frustrated. They're getting worn down. And that's the game within the game, No,
I do. Everything you're saying is right. I would, Barry always said start fast. So if there's something I would say to the offense is, one, clean up some of these mental errors. I think that the picks were just, a young kid who's, Jack, you get 2 reps is not getting 1 reps. Game week, you get 20 reps in a practice compared to 120 as the starter. So it's way different. So just looking he just looked that way the whole time. So a couple of those things, you clean those up, it's nice. But the starting fast, like when we go next week to play, what are we playing? Middle Tennessee State. I would like to see not a 3 and out. Like I want to get on dudes right away, and then. But yes, I like how you said win in the fourth quarter. It's a 4. So that makes me happy from a defensive guy to see that. But again, I think the offense, we got to score points. Three points in the first half. It's kind of hard to watch. But again, 0 points. I call it a matzo ball. Or an egg or whatever you want to call it. For the defense is impressive coming off 2 years of really not so impressive defense.
2 years of kind of wondering what we're going to get, and if this year is anything like what the defense showed us last night, I think we're all going to be very pleased and proud of that. But like you said, with the backup coming in, even I do think the OC got him a lot of good got a lot of good work early, quick outs, and he was hitting them. He was on schedule, and you might want 1 or 2 of those back, but that's something that's also that's one of the toughest things about football and college football. Not just losing your quarterback, but how do players develop? Well, they need plays, and the quarterback's the one where you're not developing on the sideline. Whereas you got 3 running backs, well, they can all develop in a sense in the game. You got linemen, they're developing every play, but a quarterback can't truly develop until he gets those reps. So, he's going to learn already from what he's got, and I'm sure just keep stacking, which is very exciting.
And you also said these are the grind out games, right? Like the Miami of Ohio, the Middle Tennessee State. I'm interested to see the improvement because there's going to be these guys. It's not like the last couple of years. Like you can see it already.
No doubt.
But then you go in and play Alabama at Alabama. So I like Danny O'Neal only because he's got a chip on his shoulder. Yeah. Like, the dude looks whacked out too. Like when you see him with his hair over the place.
The two-tone, I like a good crazy hairstyle.
I love it. Because you know what it says off the bat? Like, I'm a wild human. I'm into wild people. Like that's my jams, Jack. That's why we're friends. But I like that, he's going to bring a dynamic that, the previous, even though we've had guys get hurt, they're not bringing that energy, that uniqueness. So
Andy has a full year of being a starter under his belt already, right? He's not coming in having not really played any ball. He's coming in having played 12 games at San Diego State last year as the starter. Like he's been in these games before. So I mean, I think that is one of the reasons that he's a very good backup.
Plus and minuses for the transfer portal, but a plus is definitely like he didn't transfer having no film, reps anywhere are useful for a number of reasons, but I agree with you there.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time. We're over time as it is. I think we could have gone for like 2 more hours at least.
We didn't even talk, Jack, about your time as a GA. Like, there's so much fun things we could have.
Hey, if you guys, I'm always down to yap it up. So if you ever
let's get mid-season and yap it up.
Yeah,
let's get some good games under our belts.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Jack, thank you so much, man. This is so good to see you.
No, thank you guys. You going to be at any games?
Iowa and Washington.
Okay, I think Foom's going to Iowa. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I'm going to try and make it to Washington, actually.
Done. That's great. Let me know.
All right.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Well, thanks
guys.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to Believe in Badgers here on the Believe Network, presented by Oak Bridge Wealth Management and FanDuel. We'll be back again next week. More interviews, more fun, and more Badger football. So until then, on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Let me get the boys in there.